Well, shit.
What are y'all doing?
This is awful. I'm Deontay.
I'm Jordan.
And today we're going to be doing our movie/book review of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. If you haven't already, check out our previous 3 videos covering the first 3 books. But we're not going to waste any time because this is a very, very long book, so we're just going to get right into it.
Alright, so the book starts off with a flashback at the Riddle House, and it's talking about how all the Riddles were killed. There was no evidence as to how. There was no...
murder weapon.
Right. And so now, 50 years later, the gardener sees a fire at the house, so he's going to investigate. He goes up, he ends up walking in on Voldemort and Wormtail talking about how they're going to get to Harry Potter. Again, they've already killed somebody, and they'll kill again to get to him. And then Nagini, the snake, sees the Muggle in the hallway. She goes and tells Voldemort, and then they kill Frank.
And then that's when Harry wakes up out of his dream. He thinks it was a nightmare. His scar starts to burn. He's worried because the last time his scar burned, Voldemort was at Hogwarts. So we get a little bit more of Sassy Potter when he asks Uncle Vernon to go to the Triwizard, not the Triwizard Cup, but the Quidditch World Cup with the Weasleys, and Uncle Vernon told him no, and then he told him he was going to tell Black on him, and then Uncle Vernon changed his mind. So now he's waiting for the Weasleys to come pick him up on Sunday at 5 for them to go to the Quidditch World Cup. So
Harry's waiting for the Weasleys. It's past 5 now, so he has his doubts, as he should, because nothing ever goes his way. So he's not even sure if they're actually going to come now. And Uncle Vernon asks if they're going to come as normal people or they're going to come like full-out wizards, because he's afraid of what the neighbors might think. So now it's about 5:30. The Weasleys finally show up. They try to come through with flue powder, but the Dursleys' fireplace is boarded up, so they have to blast through. There's dust everywhere, just chaos from the moment they walk in. So, you know, Uncle Vernon is already pissed off. Then here come Fred and George, and they got these trick candies, and they drop one on purpose because they know that Dudley is not going to be able to refuse.
He was stuck to his diet that he's supposed to be on. To
right. That's probably the first piece of candy he's seen in months. He was like, oh, I'm eating this. So he eats it. His tongue swells up to like 4 feet long. It turns purple. Mr. Weasley's trying to help. Uncle Vernon's like, hell no, like, y'all need to stay away from us. So he starts throwing stuff at Mr. Weasley, and then Mr. Weasley has the nerve to ask him about his manners. Like, bro, y'all just blasted.
Just bust through my house, destroying my property.
Destroying everything, dust everywhere. And you go ask about my manners in my own house. I mean, he kind of had a point. He's like, you're not even going to say goodbye to Harry. You're not going to see him for a whole year. And Uncle Vernon's like,
get the
I don't want to hear none of that. All of y'all get out.
I can't have so much contempt. So after the Weasleys, well, they, Mr. Weasley sent Fred and George first, and then he was going to stay back to help, but, Uncle Vernon wasn't hearing that. So he was not upset when they got back to the Burrow. Mrs. Weasley, she kind of, got on Fred and George about the joke shop and, letting them know that they need to get ready to do, an adult jobs and things like that. So they have dinner that night, all of the Weasleys plus Hermione, in preparation to go to the World Cup tomorrow. Percy brings up the fact that Bertha Jerkins is missing. Ron asks about, has Harry talked to Black? Harry didn't tell him about the scar, about the dream. And so they all eat dinner, and then they get ready to go to the World Cup the next day.
So it's the day of the World Cup. This is where we first get introduced to the idea of a portkey. It's, just a little small item that's undetectable by Muggles. It's placed in their world that wizards can use to get from one place to another. All you have to do is touch it, and it'll get you where you need to go. So this is how they're getting to the World Cup that is also held around Muggles, because apparently in all these years of the World Cup series, the Wizards have not.
They can't build a stadium that's big enough to hold everyone, and that's undetectable to the Muggles. Apparently.
Like, what is your magic for, though?
I don't know. I guess because I don't know. That is a pretty big thing. Like, just imagine like one of these football stadiums just not being there
They should be able to put that inside of a port key if they magic.
Now you're asking for...
I'm just saying, they should be able to hop inside of the boot and then here's the stadium. They got... Hogwarts is big enough for... I mean, it's not as many people as the World Cup, but like...
Hogwarts is not nearly big enough.
But I'm just saying, it's undetectable to muggles somehow, and they manage that, so why can't they figure out... Anyway... So they get to the World Cup using the port key. They meet up with Cedric and Amos Diggory. Cedric is the Seeker on the Hufflepuff team, and they use the port key to get to the World Cup.
All right, so now they get to the camp. They get to the World Cup, and they meet up with Barty Crouch and Ludo Bagman. They head to the campground where Mr. Weasley and Ludo Bagman have a conversation. Mr. Weasley asks Ludo about Bertha, and Ludo has other stuff on his mind. He was like, I don't give a fuck about that right now. Ask me that later.
They don't really care about her at all. They like, she's done this before.
She's done it before. So Ludo, he makes a couple of bets with the twins. They bet all their money on the World Cup that the Bulgarian Seeker will get the snitch, but Ireland will win. And then Mr. Bagman and Mr. Crouch have a conversation about something that secret that's new that's going to be coming to Hogwarts. Harry, Hermione, and Ron, they're off exploring the campgrounds. They go and buy some souvenirs, and then I don't know what happens after that.
Then they're just ready to watch the World Cup.
Right, there you go.
Harry Potter buys them all the omnioculars so that they can see.
Oh yeah.
That helps you zoom in. It helps you slow stuff down because the World Cup goes
so
really fast.
Okay,
so the binoculars that they have let you be able to rewind stuff if you missed it, which is pretty cool.
All right.
So it's time for the Quidditch World Cup. This is the 422nd World Cup. They go find their seats in the top box. Harry sees a house elf who he thinks is Dobby. Turns out it is actually Winky, who is Barty Crouch's house elf. And she's up there. She's seemingly scared. We find out that she's afraid of heights. This is all in the book, not in the movie. We find out she's afraid of heights, which kind of, for us as the reader, is supposed to make us feel like the way that these people are treating their house elves. This is exactly why Harry wanted Dobby to be free. So he asks about Dobby, and Winky, from her perspective, she's like, Dobby's doing terrible. Like, ever since he got freed, he can't find work. He can't, he's just doing bad because this is what house elves are trained to do.
But Dobby is living his life, though. Dobby living his best life. We're going to see. Dobby is not trying to be nobody's house elf.
Yeah, but according to Winky, her being up there afraid of heights, she's doing what she's supposed to do for her master. So they watch the World Cup. It ends up turning out just like Fred and George predicted. The Ireland team wins, even though the Bulgarian Seeker got the snitch. So then it's the end. The World Cup is over. They all go back to their tents. It's at night. They're about to go to sleep.
And so, in the middle of the night, Mr. Weasley comes in, wakes up our three heroes, and lets them know that there's a riot going on outside and they have to leave. So, Mr. Weasley, Bill, Charlie, Percy, they all go help the Ministry, try to calm the riots down. The three friends run into the woods. They kind of get lost in the woods, but they run into Malfoy, and then Malfoy lets them know that the wizards that are causing the riots in the hoods are, after Muggles. And he makes a joke about Hermione since she's Muggle-born. And then Harry realizes his wand is missing. And so they see this dark figure, this man. He conjures up what we'll find out as the Dark Mark. He conjures up that mark, and then all of the wizards from the Ministry, the Aurors, they apparate on spot, and they see that, Harry, Hermione, and Ron, and they think that they conjured, well, Barty Crouch thinks they conjured the Dark Mark, but one of the, Amos does the stupefy, and he hits Winky, and she has Harry's wand, and now they think she did it, but then they convince Mr. Crouch that it wasn't her. Maybe somebody planted the wand on her, but he's still upset, and he's decides that she has to be punished by giving her clothes. Then they later explain to Harry what the Dark Mark was and let them know that that's Voldemort's sign, and it hasn't been seen in about 13 years. So kind of giving you that feeling like, you know, stuff is about to start happening again.
It's about to get real.
About to get real again.
So now we're introduced to Rita Skeeter, who is the gossip columner, really. She just spreads rumors about what happens at the World Cup. She makes people pretty nervous. So now Mr. Weasley and Percy have to work overtime at the ministry. One of the things that's happened is that Mad-Eye Moody is talking about he heard dark magic outside of his house, and they're not sure if this is real or if he's just paranoid because of what happened at the World Cup.
They had to rush over there to his house. And
right, and they didn't find anything.
Yeah, they didn't find anything. Mr. Weasley had to rush over there to save him.
And he has a past of being...
He's an aura, for one.
Right,
so.
But then he kind of went crazy. So they think that he's just...
paranoid.
Right.
The Hogwarts is, you know, on the way back to Hogwarts, the friends here, Malfoy, he was referring to another school that he was going to go to, but his mother didn't want him to go to another school. I think this is our introduction, our first hearing about other schools in the
wizarding world.
In the wizarding world.
Right.
So he also brags about knowing the secret at Hogwarts. And so that's when they get to school. They have the Great Hall ceremony with the sorting and the feast. And then, you know, we learned that the house elves prepare the feast. And then Hermione starts this thing with the house elves that drags on entirely too long. And it's kind of pointless. But she stops eating. She's going on a strike. And then we learn what is the secret at Hogwarts, which is the Dumbledore says there will be no house cup or no Quidditch cup because they're going to have the Triwizard Tournament there, and you must be 17 years old to enter. So all of the students go to bed that night thinking of ways that they can enter the Triwizard Tournament even though they aren't 17 yet.
Right, because it's only supposed to be one person per house, and then they also have students from 2 other schools who are going to be there with them this year.
Correct. That
are also going to be involved in the Triwizard Tournament.
Correct.
So classes are starting back up now at Hogwarts. They have yet another new defense against the dark arts teacher who is going to be Mad-Eye Moody this year. We're introduced to him. Some of the students have already heard about him because of Rita Skeeter's column in the newspaper. Malfoy has been talking just a whole lot of trash about Mad-Eye Moody and about Ron's family, about Mr. Weasley being noted in Rita Skeeter's column with the wrong name. So he's basically saying that they're nobodies. Moody hears him saying all of this in the hallways, and Moody, to punish him, turns him into a ferret. And then McGonagall comes and she's like, that's not quite how we do things here. You can't just
turn students into ferrets. Calm down. You just got here.
You do it way too much. You just take him to his what are they, headmasters, and leave it at that.
All right, so now we head over to after meeting Professor Mad-Eye Moody turning Malfoy into a ferret. Now we actually get to go to his class. He lets us know that he's only there for a year. He's doing it as a favor to Dumbledore. He's going back into retirement, after this school year. He said he spoke to Lupin, and Lupin told him what their lessons were last year. So this year that he's going to be focusing on curses, in particularly the first lesson will be the 3 unforgivable curses. The Imperious Curse, which gives you total control over someone's body. The Cruciatus Curse, which delivers unbearable pain to a person. And then the last one, which is the Killing Curse, which is the Avada Kedavra, which is you'll see a flash of green light, and then that's it, you're dead. He lets them know that the only person to ever survive, there's no ducking it, there's no blocking it, the only person to ever survive is sitting in this room.
Only one person is known to have survived it. And he's sitting in this room.
And he was referring to Harry, obviously. And the scene in the movie it was great. I love it. That's one of my favorite scenes in the franchise. This is one of my favorite books of the franchise as well.
Are you gonna say that in every video? This is one of your favorite books. So they're all his favorite. At this point, if I was at this school, I'd be like, something is wrong. Like, all the years that they have so far, they have not learned anything this serious in defense against the dark arts.
And not only that, to just torture Neville with it, like to to have him look at that spider like that. I mean, I'm all for that kind of like realism, like, you know what I'm saying, we're not gonna babysit you with no ballers or, you know, none of this, you know, Snape and dresses type of stuff. So I wasn't, you know, I'll be fine with it, you know.
It just makes you think, like, what is about to happen, because last year they started learning about boggarts and Harry was practicing Dementors because Dementors were at the school.
Yeah.
So if you're learning these curses, what is about to happen at school that we're going to need to know how to defend ourselves against these curses?
Well, we will find that out later. That, oh yeah, he need. And actually, so, you know, well, we'll get there when we get there. I don't know.
So the book is a lot more detailed than the movie, obviously, and we get a little more backstory about what's happening with our friend Harry. He wrote a letter to Sirius to let him know about his scar hurting and that he's worried about Voldemort. Sirius writes him back and says that he's on his way to check on him. Then Harry gets even more worried. He doesn't want Sirius to come out of hiding, so he writes him back and says he's fine. Sirius writes back and says that he's going to come anyway. He's just going to stay hidden. Meanwhile, the school is getting ready for the Tri-Wizard tournament. They know that their people from other schools are going to come and be part of the tournament as well. And I said it wrong earlier in the video. It's 1 student per school that's going to be entered, so only 3 people will compete, not 1 per house. Sorry, y'all. But we have people coming from 2 different schools, from Beauxbaton and from Durmstrang. Beauxbaton is all girls. Durmstrang is it all male?
I think so. I didn't see any women in the movie, at least. So yeah, I think it is. I'm not sure though, but I think it is.
So they come in. They're one comes by this huge horse and carriage, and then Durmstrang comes from the water. They just submerge out of the water somehow.
Well, they had a boat
at the lake.
Yeah, they had a boat.
Yeah, but they came up out of the water. They didn't like sail in.
Yeah, magic.
Oh, but they can't make a
exactly
stadium big enough for the cup.
Exactly. So we get our new students. We get our guest students from Durmstrang and from Beauxbaton. Now we get to select our 3 champions for the Tri-Wizard Cup. So the first name that comes out of the Goblet of Fire is Delacour Lafleur. Then we got Crumb,
who was in the World Cup.
And then we got Cedric Diggory. Those are our 3 names.
Ripping for Hufflepuff.
And then the Goblet spits out another name, which was Harry Potter's, which sends everything in a frenzy because, of course, Harry isn't 17 yet.
Everybody's mad. They like, dang, Harry always gets everything. Ron is seething at this point.
And I feel so bad for Harry because it's like he didn't do it, and it looks bad though. It looks really bad.
It does.
But Ron was acting like a little. I mean, he was acting like a little bitch.
I be trying to tell y'all, Ron don't do nothing but whine the whole series.
That was not his finest moment. I did not like the way he was acting. In no way would I have ever, not say would I not ever, but he should have given Harry. He should have had his back a little bit more.
Right.
It's too easy for him to just like, bro, I told you I didn't know. That should have been it.
Yeah, because the whole school is mad at him now, so he literally has no one on his side except Hermione. Because even his best friend is like, I don't know what you did, like just not trusting him.
And it's like, bro, on a cool, like, you low-key kind of suck at this, so why would you?
Right.
You can't even, you barely can fly, my guy. Like, you suck at Quidditch. Why would you want to be in this Tri-Wizard tournament? What are you jealous about? Like, I don't get it. I don't get it.
So like we said, everyone is furious about Harry's name being in the Goblet of Fire. They take him in, including the teachers. They take him in with a couple of the teachers and they try to discuss what's going to happen. The teachers from the other 2 schools, of course, are furious because now Hogwarts has 2 competitors, which is very unfair. Snape's talking about something must have happened. Dumbledore says that he put a lot of spells on the goblet to make it so that nobody who is not able to enter would be able to put their name in, which means that somebody else had to have put Harry's name in. They don't know who did it, but now that his name has come out, he has to go ahead and compete. There's no way around it. So Harry goes back to Gryffindor Commons. A lot of people are celebrating him, even though they're still kind of upset. And like we said, Ron is just not talking to him at all.
So the first thing that they do before they actually start their task is the weighing of the wands. But before they get to that, like she said, no one is really happy that Harry is competing. They all are supporting Cedric. Slytherins create these badges that says, you know, support Cedric Diggory, the real Hogwarts champion, and Potter stinks, and all this other stuff. So he's having a hard time. His best friend's not talking to him. And then he has an interview with Rita Skeeter where she starts these rumors and lies and twisting his words up when she starts asking him about Dumbledore. And actually, Dumbledore comes and saves him from Rita Skeeter during that interview. And then they have the Weighing of the Wands with Mr. Ollivander. He checks out all 4 of their wands to make sure that they're functioning properly. He gets a letter from Sirius letting him know that he is concerned about him, and he's there to set up a meeting on November 22nd and tells Harry to be careful because whoever put his name in the Goblet of Fire is no friend to him.
At this point, Harry's feeling really alone. Nobody's really talking to him. Hermione's busy doing her own thing, and she's the only one that believes him, so he doesn't really have any friends at this point. Everyone's going to Hogsmeade, which he is allowed to go this year, but like I said, he doesn't have anyone to talk to, so he goes in with the invisibility cloak on. He sees Mad-Eye Moody there, who can actually see him through the invisibility cloak. Mad-Eye's with Hagrid, so Hagrid knows that Harry is there. Hagrid tells Harry to come to his hut that night at midnight. And so Harry goes, he puts on the invisibility cloak again, but he knows that he's supposed to be meeting with Sirius at 1 a.m. in Gryffindor Commons. So he goes quickly. Turns out that Hagrid is giving him information about what the first task of the Triwizard Tournament is going to be. He's going to have to fight a dragon. So he got that information, and he hurries back to the Gryffindor Commons to meet Sirius. And Sirius ends up coming through the fire. It's just his face in the fireplace. Harry tells him everything that's been happening so far. Sirius tells him to be very careful. He says that Karkaroff, who is the headmaster at Durmstrang, used to be a Death Eater, so Sirius thinks that maybe it was Karkaroff that put Harry's name in the goblet, and he may still be working for Voldemort. So then Sirius he's trying to give him some information about how to defeat the dragon in the first task, but then Harry hears somebody coming into the commons, so Sirius has to leave before he gets the information.
So he didn't get any information about how to defeat the dragon or how to get past the dragon from Sirius, but he does. Him and Hermione, they go to the library and they try to look up some summoning charms because he meets up with Mad-Eye Moody. He actually tells Cedric Diggory about the dragons because Cedric Diggory doesn't know. Mad-Eye sees him and says that was a nice thing he did. Everyone cheats, so Mad-Eye tells him he has to play to his strengths in order to get past the dragon, and his strength is flying. So that's why him and Hermione were in the library looking up summoning charms and practicing summoning charms so he can summon his firebolt. So on the day of, that's basically what happened. All 4 of the wizards get past their dragon. Harry calls his firebolt, gets past his dragon. That's when him and Ron make up, because Ron saw what happened and was like, "Oh, bro, you had to have been crazy to put your name in that Goblet of Fire." And Harry was like, "Bro, that's what I was trying to tell you. Don't try to be all on my nuts now that I done got past the first year. You thought I was gonna fail. That's what it was."
Yeah, but at the same time, Harry's like, finally someone's talking to me.
Yeah, so he didn't care. He didn't care. So Harry got past the dragon. Everyone's excited. Now his next clue was hidden inside of the egg for task number 2.
So Harry and Ron have made up now. Harry catches Ron up about everything that was going on with him. He opens up the egg from the first task that gives him the clue for the second task. All it is loud screeching, so he doesn't know what it is quite yet. He closes it up. He says he'll worry about that later. Hermione, during all of this, is still obsessed with freeing the house elves. She asks Fred and George how to get into the kitchen so that she can see the house elves. They tell her how to sneak in. She takes Ron and Harry there. They see Dobby in there, who he's happy. He's glad to just be away from the Malfoys.
Living his best life.
He said that they're terrible, dark wizards, so he's happy to be in the kitchen. But Winky, she is just depressed. She's sad that she feels ashamed that she lost her job. She's still very loyal to Barty Crouch and says that, you know, she doesn't say much information about him, but she does tell them that he talks bad about little badmen. After that, they go back to McGonagall's class. She tells them about the Yule Ball that's coming up. as if they didn't already have enough stuff going on. She's like, oh yeah, by the way, y'all gotta go to this ball. Harry, you're gonna have to dance. You're gonna have to find a date. And y'all, that's the Triwizard tradition for them to do a dance with their date. So now Harry's like, he doesn't know who he's gonna bring. He wants to ask Cho. Ron wants to ask Fleur. Two girls that are pretty much way out of their league, and of course both of them already have dates they're taking. So then they're like, all right, fine, we'll just bring
ask Ginny and
Hermione. We'll just leave it at that. And so they go and they're like all nonchalant about it. They're like, just come with us to the ball. And then Hermione and Ginny like, no, actually we have dates too. And they like, well, dang, who are y'all dates? And they won't tell. So then they ended up having to go with the Patel twins since nobody else is available because they waited to the last minute.
So now they're close to the Yule Ball. It's Christmas break. Ron take notice to Hermione's new teeth because earlier in the book, Harry and Malfoy got into it and they were exchanging curses. One curse hit Goyle, and then another one hit Hermione and made her teeth really big. Snape told Goyle to go to the hospital wing, and then he told Hermione, I don't see no difference in your teeth.
She's like, what about me? He's like, what's wrong with you?
So your teeth always big. So he's admiring her new teeth. So at the Yule Ball, we do see that her date is Crumb, which causes, Ron to get his panties in a bunch again.
Yet again.
They get scary when they get older.
Ron, you spoiled everything. What's this about?
Here you go, still whining.
So they actually don't really enjoy the Yule Ball much. So Harry and Ron actually overhear Karkaroff and Snape having a discussion, and Karkaroff was real pissed off. They also hear Hagrid talking to Madame Maxine, and he reveals to her that he's half giant, and I think he was trying to get her to reveal it, but she wasn't having that shit. She does not want to be associated with giants or anything.
Even though she's just as big as him.
Even though she's like, you're not fooling anyone. You're half giant. It's not all giant. We know. We can see. I seen it.
She's like, no, not me.
I seen it. So she, kind of leaves Hagrid feeling bad, and then Cedric Diggory comes up after the Yule Ball and gives Harry a hint, as like payback. He tells him take the egg in the bath, take a bath with it, basically, to give him a hint as to what the next task is going to be.
Time for Hagrid's class. He's not there. Number one, not only did he just get his heart broken when he tried to reveal his secret to Madame Maxine at the ball, but also Rita Skeeter has written a article about him saying that he's not fit to work there. In the wizarding world, to them, giants are very scary. They kill. So she says that Dumbledore should have never hired him. Harry, Ron, and Hermione try to go to his hut to console him, and he's not there. Then there's a Hogsmeade trip coming up. Hermione tells Harry that he should be staying back to work on his next clue for the next task, but he's like, no, I want to go to Hogsmeade. Maybe Hagrid is there.
He's so irresponsible.
He just expects everything to just work out for him. He's like, nah, I ain't gonna worry about that.
It does.
That's why he keeps doing it. Shoot, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So they go into Hogsmeade anyway. They're looking for Hagrid. They don't see him there. They do see Rita Skeeter there, though, and they just tear into her. They call her horrible, saying that she keeps spreading these rumors. They also see Bagman there, and they see him doing some really shady stuff. Number one, he's there with some goblins, so they're trying to figure out what's going on. And number two, he pulls Harry to the side and tells him that he can help with the egg clue, which Harry knows is illegal. They're not supposed to get any help at all, even though Hagrid helped him before, but that's his friend, so he trusts him. He thinks Bagman is trying to set him up to see if he's going to take the clue or not, so he tells Bagman he doesn't want the hint. So then they end up going back to the school. They go back to Hagrid's hut. Hagrid is back now. Dumbledore's there. He's trying to tell Hagrid to come back to work, just kind of leave all of that behind him. And they try to cheer him up. And then Harry's like, okay, maybe I should actually start working on this task. So he finally goes and takes it and gets started on it.
So he takes the egg along with the Marauder's map and his invisibility cloak to the prefect's bathroom. And he gets in the tub, and at first it isn't working. So he thought Cedric may have played him a little bit. So Moaning Myrtle comes in and tell him, you gotta open it up underwater. That's what Cedric did. He opens it up.
He's like, yo, what you doing in here? They're trying to cover up with all the bubbles.
Hey, get up out of here. So that's when we hear the song, and Harry figures it out that they're gonna be, dealing with mer people. So once he gets his information, he's heading back to the Gryffindor common room. But he sees on the Marauders map, Crouch is in Snape's office. Now this is kind of alarming to him because Crouch wasn't at the Yule Ball. Percy came in his place. So they were wondering where he is. So he saw just the name Crouch and he couldn't help himself. He had to go investigate. On his way to investigate, he stepped on a trick step, and then the egg falls, the map falls, shit just falling everywhere. The egg opens, screeching in the hallway, and Filch come out, Snape's come out. He knows it's Harry too. He saw the egg, he saw the map, he was looking for Harry ass. But Harry's still under the invisibility cloak. Moody comes and saves him.
Because he can see him.
Because he can see him, and he tells Snape, "You need to calm down. You're going too hard on this kid. You're doing a little too much.
Right.
I will tell Dumbledore on you." He told him he was going to report.
Somebody needed to say it. Like, obviously Harry's in the wrong right here, but yes. Snape needs to let up. Like,
so, but you know, Mad Eye was telling him Snape used to be a Death Eater. And then he actually asked Harry if he can borrow the Marauders map. Harry, lets him, because what else is he gonna? He just saved your skin. So Harry gives Mad Eye Moody the Marauders map, and then he goes back to the Gryffindor common room.
So Harry knows what the second test is going to be, but he still doesn't know how to get past it yet. Harry, Ron, and Hermione go into the library. They know that he's going to be underwater, so they're looking for a spell that will help him breathe underwater. Fred and George come and say that McGonagall needs Ron and Hermione. So now Harry is on his own in the library. He still hasn't found a spell. He ends up falling asleep in the library. Dobby comes and wakes him up. In the book, Dobby comes and wakes him up 10 minutes before the second task is supposed to start. And once again, someone else has come to Harry's rescue. Dobby is the one who figured out what Harry needs to do. He needs to eat gillyweed so that he will have gills and he can breathe underwater. Dobby says they have your Wheezy, which means that they took Ron down there, and Harry now needs to go save him from the bottom of the lake. In the movie, it was Neville who gave him the gillyweed, but in both instances, someone had to come to Harry's rescue again. So he goes to the second task. They're at the lake. He knows what he has to do. He eats the gillyweed. He grows gills. He goes into the water. He has to fight some Grindylows, and then he finally gets down to the bottom, and he sees 4 people tied up.
I just want to say this scene in the movie gives me the heebie-jeebies. I hate underwater things, and especially the deep underwater. Like I have to close my eyes when I watch this. So
you wouldn't have passed that task?
No.
What if it was me under there tied up? You look like that sweaty.
I mean, I do what I gotta do, but if I have a heart attack, everybody goes down. I can't do the deep underwater.
You just gonna stay up there and tell them how good I was to you?
Yeah. That deep underwater, I can't do it. No. Sorry to interrupt.
So he goes down and he sees the 4 people tied up. It's Ron, Hermione, Cho, and the little sister of Fleur Delacour. So he was the first one to get down there out of the competitors. He unties Ron and he's about to leave, but then he sees and he gets worried. Finally, Cedric comes and gets Cho out. A little while later, Crumb comes with a shark head and he unwraps Hermione and gets her out. Then the only person left down there is Fleur's little sister, who's pretty young. Harry's really worried. He takes his time to get her untangled. And
Fleur did what I would have done. She passed out as soon as she started.
She did.
she was out of there as soon as she started.
And they don't give no hints as to what's down there, do they?
Nope.
Like, she doesn't know what's happening down there.
Yeah, nobody knows that, that there were, I guess,
But I'm sure she saw Cedric and Crumb come back up with who they had, so she had to know.
Well, after a while, when she fell, she knew what it was when people started coming up.
Yeah, and she was hysterical. Yeah. So Harry ended up saving both of them. He saved Ron and he saved Fleur's little sister, but he did not finish the task in time, which technically means that he should have been disqualified.
Again. And it was like, I know it's supposed to be like, he should have known that they weren't going to let her die, right?
Right. That's the same thing Ron and Hermione were saying. They were like, why would you panic?
Why would you do that? Like,
what do you think is going to happen to her under Dumbledore's care?
Like,
that was the first thing Ron said when he came up. You know, like, he was still unconscious under the water, and then he came up and he made it, and he was like, why would you do that?
Like, that's the first thing, like, after he saved you, he wants to know, why were you being so stupid? Like, I don't know, man. You know, Harry got some funny ways, man. I don't know.
Well, Flora was very grateful that he saved her sister. She was up there hysterical. And Dumbledore talked to the mer people, and they explained to them that Harry was very brave down there, and he used, you know, his intelligence to say that he needed to stay down there in order to get Flora's sister. So because of that, Dumbledore only took 5 points off of his overall score and let him still continue in the tournament.
If I was Harry, I'd have been like, yep, all right, I lost. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you get out of the tournament, you live.
Right.
And then it's like...
And you look like a hero.
And you look like a hero. This is your way out. Like, that. Like, I'd be like, all right, I'm out. I lost. I'm
Dumbledore's like, nah, you still in. You gotta go to the next
Because Harry fully himself. He want to win. Because they'll me, I'd be like, I'm good. You know what I'm saying?
He don't know what side he want to be on at first. He's like, I don't want it. Anybody else could have had it.
Right. And then now look at it. He fight to stay in. Like, he looking with Dumbledore. Like, what's going on? Like, bro, just, you could have got away scot-free. And now look, Cedric going, all right.
So now that task is over, and then they have their third task coming up.
Okay, so after they complete the second task, they meet up with Padfoot and Hogsmeade. They were going to get Dobby some socks for helping Harry out with the gillyweed. So they meet up with Sirius. They go into some cave, some cave, so they can speak in private. Black tells them about Barty Crouch and how he doesn't let anything get in his way as far as his reputation. They told him about the son that he had and how he sentenced his son to Azkaban prison. His son died in Azkaban, and his mother soon died after that. Harry then tells Sirius about Crumb's arm, about him and Snape, because Black informs them about Snape being a Death Eater. He was never confirmed or caught with the Death Eaters, but he was known to be around their inner circle. So after that, the gang they go back to the kitchen to give Dobby his socks, and Hermione is stirring up the pot again with this rise up, take a stand things. They all think that she is dangerous, so they kick them out of the kitchen. So during class, McGonagall tells Harry that he needs to go with Bagman to get the information about their third and final task. There he sees Crumb. Crumb kind of pulls him to the side after they know that they're going to be in a maze, and they're going to have to use basically all of their knowledge they're going to have obstacles inside the maze, but if the first person reaches the cup wins the Triwizard Cup. So Crumb kind of pulls Harry to the side, and he wants to speak about Hermione because he thought they had something going on, and Harry's like, nah, bro, she's just she's my friend. Shoot your shot, big homie. And so while he was telling him this, they see Crumb talking to a tree, and so Harry goes to get Dumbledore, tells Crumb to stay with Crouch, and then while he's running to go get Dumbledore, he sees Snape holding him up, and he trying to like, hey, bro, I don't have time for this. So he ended up getting Dumbledore. They go back to the woods where Crumb and Crouch were, but now Crouch is gone, and Crumb is unconscious, and Dumbledore wakes him up, and he says, Mr. Crouch attacked him from behind, and then he's gone, and so Dumbledore tells Hagrid to go get Karkaroff, and Karkaroff is pissed because he thinks somebody is messing with his champion, so he spits at Dumbledore, and then Hagrid is like, you done fucked up now, big homie, and Hagrid attacks him, and then Dumbledore's like, calm down, take Harry back to the castle, and then they go back to the castle.
So, of course, Harry's going to go and tell Ron and Hermione everything that just happened. They talk about things that could have happened to Crouch. Harry also sends a letter to Sirius, who is now his voice of reason. Sirius is telling him to be very aware, very alert. Don't go anywhere alone because bad things are about to start happening. So then they're in Trelawney's class. Harry kind of dozes off. He has another one of what he thinks is just a dream. And he sees Voldemort and Wormtail again. They're talking about someone else has been killed. And now all they have to do from this point is get to Harry. So he has that dream. He wakes up. He's shook. He wants to go talk to Dumbledore. When he gets to his office, he overhears Dumbledore talking to Moody inside. And he's kind of, eavesdropping a little bit, but of course, like we already said, Moody can see through things, so he knows that Harry is standing right outside the office, and he tells Dumbledore, and then they bring Harry inside.
So Harry's inside Dumbledore's office, and then Dumbledore just so happens to leave his pensieve out in the open while he leaves the room. So Harry, being the nosy individual that he is, goes and puts his face in the water basin, which we find out is a pensieve. So it takes him into Dumbledore's memory of being on trial. Not him being on trial, but he was at the trial of Karkaroff. And Karkaroff was in a cage, you know, snitching all the names of Death Eaters. He dropped Snape's name. He says, but they did say that Snape wasn't confirmed as a Death Eater, so that wasn't enough. So then he was like, I know the names of 4 of the people that were torturing Neville Longbottom and Aura. And so one of the people that he named was Barty Crouch Jr., and he was saying that he was innocent, but his father was like, I ain't trying to hear that shit. And he sends them to Azkaban prison. Then Dumbledore comes in and tells Harry, all right, you've been in my dream long enough. Bring your ass out. So then that's when he reiterates that Snape and Karkaroff they weren't confirmed to, what he said was they hadn't been linked with dark magic since the fall of Voldemort, which is why they aren't in Azkaban. And then he also tells them the story about Neville's parents being tortured, and then now they're in St. Mungo's hospital. Neville visits them, and he asks that Harry don't tell anyone else until Neville reveals it first, and Harry agrees, and he keeps his word. He never does.
So it's the day of the 3rd task. We already know that it's going to be a maze, and whoever gets to the cup in the maze first will be the winner. Right before the task, there's another article that comes out about Harry, and it's about his scar and about him being able to speak Parseltongue, which are things that Harry did not disclose to Rita in their interview. So he's trying to figure out, how does she know these personal things about me? Hermione has an idea. She runs off to the library to do some investigation. Meanwhile, Harry starts the 3rd task. And it was, in his mind, he was thinking it was going to be a lot of challenges before you get to the cup. But so far, it's been like pretty easy for him. It seems like he's going to be the first one to the cup. He ends up seeing Cedric at one point. Cedric told him about some of the obstacles that he had to get through so far, which Harry hasn't had any of those yet. Then they see Krum, who, once they see him, Krum tries to do the Crucio curse on Cedric. So to us, it's pretty obvious that he's under the Imperious curse. Harry stupefies Krum. And then Harry and Cedric can see the cup. They're going towards it. In the book, a spider, this huge spider, comes out, breaks Harry's ankle. Cedric helps get the spider away. Harry's ankle is still hurt. And then they decide that since they work together, they're both going to touch the cup at the same time. And in their minds, they think that means that they're going to both be the winners.
They touch the Triwizard Cup thinking that they were going to be winners. And they end up, imagine, touching the cup thinking you're done.
Think this is the end.
Think it's the end, and then you get transferred to some graveyard, and then that's when Wormtail comes out of the shadows. Then you hear a whisper that says, kill the Spare, which is Voldemort. So Wormtail hits him with the Avada Kedavra, and then, kills Cedric. Rest in peace. So Wormtail then ties Harry up to Tom Riddle's tombstone, and he begins collecting ingredients to bring back Voldemort. He takes bone from the grave. He cuts off his hand. He puts Voldemort in the pot, and then he gets blood from Harry. And then, bubbly, 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 boom. Lord Voldemort is back. He's back.
He's back. He's back. Voldemort's back.
So now Voldemort is back in all of his glory. This is his first time in 13 years being back in this position of power. Death Eaters start arriving to the tombstone where he is. They immediately fall to his feet and start kissing him, trying to explain to him why they have been in hiding for so long. He's not trying to hear none of that. He don't care about these people. He don't care about nobody. So he ends up giving Wormtail a new hand, a metal hand, since Wormtail has just cut his hand off to get him back into his original body. The other people start, again, they're trying to explain why they weren't there. He questions their loyalty. He says the only person that has remained loyal to him is his faithful servant at Hogwarts. He doesn't even believe that Wormtail's loyal to him at this point. After he cut his arm off, he thinks he's just there because he's scared.
Because of fear.
Right.
Not out of loyalty, out of fear.
Right.
Yep.
So the only person he thinks is loyal to him, he says his faithful servant at Hogwarts, which leads us as the readers to believe that it's Snape. But he doesn't say a name. Then he starts to talk about what happened the night of his downfall. He says that Harry is not any more powerful than him. It was only his mother's sacrifice that saved him that night. That's the only reason why.
He said that old magic that he didn't know about.
Right. That's the only reason why Harry was able to defeat him in that one place. So now he has Harry. He puts him under the Crucio spell. And he tells the Death Eaters that he's going to duel him to prove to the Death Eaters that he is more powerful than Harry Potter.
All right, so he tells Harry, let's duel. Basically, tells him to bow, proper dueling etiquette. Then they teach you that at school, and then so they start dueling. Cruciatus Curse, Expelliarmus flying, and just so eventually. Right when Voldemort is going for the Avada Kedavra, Harry does Expelliarmus. Their fucking lights connect, and then they got this gold light show going on. And so during that, all of the spirits, of the people, of the victims of Voldemort's one, like Frank and Bertha, Harry's parents, Cedric, they all come out of the one, and they tell Harry. And this is a really good scene too. They tell Harry, we'll distract them while you get away. And then Cedric asks Harry, can you take my body back to my dad? Which is really sad. That was actually pretty sad.
Yes, it was.
That was pretty sad. He asked him to take his body back to his dad. And so they break the connection. Harry runs. He summons the one. Voldemort tells the Death Eaters to stun him, but he uses the summoning charm, gets the port key, and touches Cedric's body, and he transports him back to the Hogwarts maze campground, or where they were waiting for all of the participants to be.
So at this point, as a Death Eater, what would you be thinking? Would you still think that Voldemort is all powerful, or like, now this is the second time that this little boy has gotten away from you?
Well, those type of individuals, they're there out of fear. You can tell. He was right. The only person that was there out of loyalty was
his faithful servant.
Well, his faithful servant, right? Lucius is scared of him. Wormtail is terrified of him. The only people that I don't think are terrified of him was the wolf, the werewolf guy, but he wasn't even a Death Eater. He's not even a Death Eater.
He just want to kill you.
Yeah, he's just one of those people that don't give a fuck. But I think that they're there now because they're scared. That's why no one tried to bring him back. Right. He's one of those people like the only person that was trying to bring him back was the one that was scared.
So Harry gets back to the maze with Cedric's body. And in the book, Dumbledore rushes over. He sees that Harry is hurt. He sees that Cedric is dead. Cedric's parents come rushing up, and Dumbledore tries to get to them first before they can see what has happened. This scene in the movie was so emotional. This is my first time in the whole series up till now that made me cry, because just everybody, you can tell that there was so much anticipation in the crowd at the Triwizard Tournament when the two boys went missing, and then they see that they're back and everyone's cheering. They're just so relieved that Harry and Cedric are back, and then they realize that Cedric is dead, and the mood just shifts, and it was heartbreaking.
So that's when he's emotional. Moody comes over, takes him away, and instead of taking him to the hospital, when he takes him back to his office. And then that's when he begins to spill the beans to tell Harry that it was actually him behind everything. He's a loyal servant. He was the one that gave the hint to have Hagrid tell Harry about the first and second task, give them clues. He was the one that stunned Fleur so she couldn't finish her task. He was the one that put the Imperial on Crumb to have him stun Cedric. He was the one that made the obstacle so easy for Harry to get to. He was the one that turned the cup into a port key. So he begins to explain. So that when he tells him he was going to kill Harry and then bring his body back to Voldemort, he thought he was going to be the dude. He thought, I'm about to be better than everyone. I'm about to kill you and take your body back to Voldemort. And then that's when Dumbledore, McGonagall, and Snape bust up in the office. They stun fake Moody, and he tells Snape, go get that truth serum, the Beretta serum, out of your office. And then he tells McGonagall or someone to go to Hagrid's hut to bring the dog, whatever. So they wait till the potion wears off, and we see that's Barty Crouch Jr. So we know that Barty Crouch's father and mother came to visit him in Azkaban. They used Polyjuice Potion to switch places. She dies in Azkaban. They fake her death, and then he's at the house. His dad kept him locked up under the Imperious Curse and under invisibility cloaks or whatever. So Bertha Jorkins actually came over to the house one time and actually accidentally saw him. And so then they had to use memory charms on her, but it damaged her brain. So then Winky, the house elf that we've been talking to, the one that's been having the rough time, who's been drinking and stuff, she convinced Barty Crouch to let his son go to the World Cup. So when we thought she was sitting alone, she was actually sitting with Barty Crouch Jr. under invisibility cloak. But he comes out of the Imperious Curse. He takes Harry's one, he sets the dark mark off and frames Winky for it. So then that's when we figure out that Voldemort came to Barty Crouch's house, and he put Barty Crouch under the Imperious Curse. So, but Barty Crouch breaks away, and then he comes to Hogwarts to warn Dumbledore. But that's when they catch him in the forest with Crumb. That's what he was doing. He was there to warn them about what was happening. But then Barty Crouch sees him, turns him into a bone, and kills him and transfigures him into a bone and like buries him in the forest. So he's now dead. Kills his father. Now he's all dead. And then now we're here.
So now that Dumbledore knows the truth about everything that's been happening, he takes Harry into his office. Harry explains to Dumbledore what happened from the port key, which we just explained. Sirius is also there as a dog. Dumbledore tells Harry another way that he and Voldemort are connected. They both have a feather from Fox in their wand. So that's why when they both try to do a charm at each other, the wand's connected. So we're getting into more ways that Harry has connections to Voldemort there. So after they speak, Dumbledore takes Harry to the hospital wing. Fox has already mended his leg, but Madame Pomfrey gives him a potion so that he can sleep, because at this point his mind is just racing. So he falls asleep in the hospital wing. He wakes up with Fudge there. Fudge has brought a Dementor to give Barty Crouch Jr. the Dementor's kiss, which McGonagall is very livid about at this point, because they needed Barty Crouch Jr. to testify about what has happened. Fudge doesn't believe any of this. He doesn't think Voldemort's back. He doesn't think Barty Crouch Jr. was tied to Voldemort. He thinks that he just was working on his own, and he needed to get the Dementor's kiss and be done with it.
Wow.
Right. And Dumbledore is trying to explain all of this to him, saying that they need to join forces. They need to get the Dementors out before they join with Voldemort. He's trying to convince him to join forces with the Giants, since Hagrid. He thinks that Hagrid has some sort of connection with Giants, since he is half giant. So he thinks that's his plan. And Fudge is just refusing all of that.
They're going to beat the shit out of you.
Shut up. So Fudge has refused all of that. Dumbledore said, well, I guess this means that we have to part ways. So he's basically telling them that Hogwarts is going to be its own entity away from the Ministry of Magic. And Fudge is like, do what you got to do. And so then at this point, Sirius is still there as a dog. Dumbledore tells him to reveal himself. Snape is also in the room. He makes Snape and Sirius shake hands. And he says, basically he's like, this is about to get real. We know Voldemort's back. We ain't playing no games no more. We don't have any help from the Ministry. We have to join forces to stand up against Voldemort whenever he does return.
So after the conversation that Dumbledore has with Snape and Harry and Sirius, Harry leaves the hospital wing. He's gotten better. He meets with the Diggories to offer his condolences. They thank him for bringing his body back. he actually offers them the winnings from the Traveler's Cup. They refuse. So after that, they honor Cedric at the last feast before the school year's over. Dumbledore tells them, he keeps it real with them, let them know Voldemort's back. He tell them what happened to Cedric. He honored Harry's bravery. So on the way back, on the Hogwarts Express, on their way back, Hermione reveals that she caught Rita Skeeter. She's actually an animagus. She is a beetle, so she caught her in this little, in a little jar or whatever. And Harry continues to tell them what happened in the graveyard. Then Malfoy and Crabbe and Goyle come in, do their little, you'll be next, Mudblood thing, yada yada yada. They kick their ass, and then that's basically, how the story ends. But I think, and I could be wrong, but I think Harry also gives Fred and George his winnings from the Traveler's Cup either at the end of this book or in like the next book. I don't remember which for sure, but he does do it. And then, but that's basically the end of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. So like I was saying, this is one of my favorite books and one of my favorite movies of the series.
We need to edit in a video of you saying this in every single video we've done so far. This one's my favorite. This one's my favorite. This one's my favorite.
Hey, so hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it's not too long.
You didn't let me say what I wanted to say.
Okay, say what you gotta say then.
Honestly, this was my least favorite book. It was way too wordy. In the last three, it definitely left you wanting more. This one, I must say, before they got to the hospital wing scene where Dumbledore starts talking about Voldemort coming back, I was like, this kind of took a toll. It went off the deep end. The problem is that J.K. Rowling writes this book for people who may have not read books 1 through 3. So as a writer's standpoint...
because they kept going over things that we already knew?
Right.
Okay,
so from a writer's standpoint, it makes sense because she's thinking of maybe she has new fans who don't want to go back and read all the other books. So she puts little things in the different parts to explain stuff that we as readers already know because we've read the other books. And that just makes it so long and so wordy. So this book, it kind of...
What kind of savage picks up a book in the 4th installment is like, I ain't read none of those other ones. You know what type of savage you are? You're Barty Crouch Jr. and shit like that. You are the definition.
You have to think about all that though when you try. Hey, I know, you try to sell books.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, you're a maniac. You just pick up something in just the 4th installment and just like, I'm not gonna read any other books.
Right. So that part is really annoying.
It's like Harry's back at the. Who's Harry? You know nothing. You know nothing.
That's why she took 25 pages to explain who all these people are.
Yeah, then she did she overdid it with the words.
But it did pick back up at the end, like I said, when Dumbledore was talking about Voldemort coming back and they have to join forces. And now it's like, I don't know what they're going to do without having any connection to the Ministry. So now it's making me want to go and read the next book.
And next book will be Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. And we'll be back to give you another review. And again, just keep in mind, these reviews are book/movie all mashed into one. So some things we may be referring to the movie, some things we may be referring to the books. We'll do our best to try to, distinguish when we're talking about one or the other. But thank you for watching. If you made it all the way through the video, you're great. See you next time. Peace.
Start this one off with.
I'm not gonna start this one with anything.
Well, we gotta do the well shit.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. I'm not gonna do anything before that.
Okay.
All right. You ready?
I don't believe you.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Well, shit. Everything put the name of the Goblet of Fire.
I knew it was coming. I knew it. I was ready this time.
All right.
You got me already yesterday. You can't give me no more.
All right. One.
We eat that while I talk? Fat ass.
1, 2.
You better not start smacking in my ear.
Right. I'm not. For real. Be quiet. 1, 2, 3, go.
Why? Why are you being this way?
I'm not being new. I'm hungry.
You still high? Is this because you on camera? You got to monitor your recording line?